morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob. Don't believe a word I said. So, how you guys doing? Again, interesting. For a guy who only has 417 subscribers, YouTube really doesn't like me. Doesn't want to shut me down, but kind of goes in to real, just makes it difficult, right? What can I say? But that's okay, because I'm just here for you. Because you have to realize that meaning back when Donnie started, trying to the art of the deal with the Taliban, I mean, he totally got taken over. Because he didn't have to give up anything. He gave up whatever leverage the U.S. had in Afghanistan. In jail and generals, and they started negotiating. They started pre-locating resources all throughout Afghanistan. And then once, Jojo got and said, we're leaving this date, they started taking over, by 2-3 months into Jojo's administration, they had taken over 3/4 of Afghanistan. Being a week towards that, it's pretty obvious Afghanistan was going to fall, especially, so they had 300,000 guys with their names, half of them couldn't even write their name, but it's not that they didn't fight. From 2014 till now, every year, 10,000 Afghanis lost their lives, and close to 60,000 were seriously injured, right? And we could have, look, we kept 50,000 people in Korea. We kept 100,000 guys in, and still do, in Europe. We could have left, 700 guys in Afghanistan. And that's all it would take, because that's kind of how many people it took to overthrow the Taliban in 2001. And then we ignored Afghanistan for 4 years because we then went into, Iraq. And we said, oh, we don't want to do a nation building, but we then did it in Iraq, right? And it wasn't until the last 2 years of Georgie boys, Dick Cheney was really president. And, that's, there were 3 different times from like right off the bat in 2002, 2003, just before we went into Iraq. The Taliban said, listen, we realize militarily this ain't going to work, but we want to be, let's make a deal. We could have made a deal then where they would have had equal kind of parity, right? The political thing could have been worked out, right? And again, in 2006 and in 2012, these were all times when the Taliban said, let's work this out politically. And we basically said, screw it, we're going to just kick your ass. And we hear the trope that Afghanistan is a place where empires go to die. Well, it's true, but in reality, Afghanistan has just been a place that's just been a place, right? And when no one's there, they actually have peace. It isn't a bunch of warlords killing each other forever. No, between 1948 and 1970, Afghanistan was a country at X. And there were more doctors, more lawyers, more people in their legislatures that were women. And today, there are more people in the Afghan legislature, women in the Afghan legislature, than there are in our Congress. So, pretty much what's going to happen is that this is going to be a Vietnam kind of, oh my God, we're so embarrassed. Oh, it totally, did Vietnam destroy the imperial might of the United States? No. Were we self-reflective? No, because we have this attitude of we're special. We can do whatever we want. I mean, we have forced so many. We can't use. We're the only guys who didn't sign the landmine thing. We want to do that. We're the only guy. I mean, we helped that happen, and most of the world has signed saying now we're not going to use landmines. But General Dynamics makes a lot of money out of landmines, so we're going to keep making them and selling them and using them. Right. Same thing with biological weapons, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons. We have, since we've had nuclear weapons, we have told everyone we're going to use them first. So in 1947-48, they had an atomic bomb, which we gave them, just like the Nazis gave us the atomic bombs that we used on Nagasaki, little boy. That was it used to have a swastika painted gray and put a little American flag on it. The plutonium bomb, yes, that was ours. But the other one was from Nazis because we, after 3 years at Oak Ridge, trying to make, plutonium metal, radioactive metal, it was taking a lot of time, right? And so, end of World War II, German people bombed into the Stone Age. Nazis win the war. Straight out of Captain America, Stan L was right. The Captain American movies, Hail Hydra. That's where we are today. We let 70,000 Nazis into our government. So that's where we are today, and that's where we've been as the human race. I was talking to a guy who might have been Jesus Christ. I walked out of whatchamacallit, out of Dollar Tree, right? And I love, Dollar General, total Nazis. Dollar Tree, on the other hand, that place, everything is a dollar, right? And they, pretty much have everything you might need. So that's where it is. But that doesn't matter. Does not matter. What matters, it's too bad nobody's watching this. What matters is this. Can you feel the energy? And every day in every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. Father Sky, Mother Earth, Holy Spirit, bless us indeed. Put your hand upon our shoulders, enlarge our territory, keep us from evil so we will not do any harm, so we can serve love's co-creation. Okay? The other one is conscious awareness, I am. Conscious aware, I am. Conscious aware, I am. Conscious aware, I am. Aho. Conscious aware, I am. Conscious aware, I am. Conscious aware, I am. Aho. Do that for 5 minutes. You will be in state. God will be in your heart. Love will be emanating out of your fingertips. That's all you got to do. There's conscious awareness I am, conscious awareness I am, conscious awareness I am. Om or Aho. So, AI jumps in every now and then, make sure I'm not saying anything, inappropriate. But look at America. Our whole little Thanksgiving, right? The Pilgrims come over. The first year they have a really hard time, and they nearly all died. Indians come down from their tribal settlement above them, and they come down and they help them out, give them herbs from the forest and heal them, and feed them because they've got larder of their own of all the plants and things that grow, and the Indians, when Spanish went over and saw the West Coast for the first time, they saw all the forests like beautiful and all this different stuff, and they couldn't believe how diverse everything was because Europe wasn't that way. It's because the Indians were, they were burning the forests so they wouldn't have terrible forests, and they were planting plants that would help the other plants to grow. Right? There were grandparent plants, and they, they were in harmony. They were in Gestalt. They were in homeostasis, right? And that's the first people. They're all the first people I've ever lived with. The Aborigines of Australia, the Kong of Africa, a number of tribes in South America that don't even have names because I was the only white guy to see them, and I was sent there by Nazis. I was sitting in my abandoned building in the Lower East Side in 1987. I get a phone call, yellow phone call. Hello, is this Al Bob? I said, yes. Are you the guy who wired, who the magician of the Xenon? Because Xenon discotheque. Go look at that. Right? Studio 54 has a lot of street cred as being the, but really Xenon was it because it built a culture. They were what were known as the party kids, right? And they went in there and would dress them, paint themselves gold, do all kinds of. Every time they go to the disco, the only way you could get in is if you looked really amazing, right? And Xenon's was built right near Times Square in the 50s, and it was either 54th Street or 30-something Street, one or the other. But it was in the old Edison Theater. The Edison Theater, that was the first electric theater of the 1890s. What do you call that? When they would have music and dancing and jokes. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Anybody want to? Yeah, no cadre want to say anything. It's amazing how people. It's either I'm being blocked intermittently by YouTube, or no one seems to care. So my car has kind of died, and I don't have any cash to fix it. So a friend of mine lent me his beater, which is in pretty good shape. And anyway, at least it starts, And so anyway, I get this phone call, and it's this guy in Brazil, and it's a lawyer. And he goes, listen, do you know Richard Cranium? And I said, yeah, Dick's a good friend of mine, but he owes me $500. Click. Ring, ring, ring. No. We have him, and we're going to kill him unless you come to Brazil, to Búzios, Brazil, which is a little peninsula about 200 miles north of Rio, sticking out into the Atlantic, playground of the Europeans. It's got a hospital in it that does plastic surgery, changes your fingertips, your fingerprints, and gives you new personality. Change your voice, does everything you see on Mission Impossible that Tom Cruise does. They do it for real, for good, meaning they change you completely. And this kind of carnival town, Búzios, around it, because right, the peninsula's beach all the way around it, beautiful, a little fishing village over here. Anyway, so ring, ring, ring. No. We have your friend, Richard Cranium. We're going to kill him. I said, good. He owes me $500. Click. Ring, ring, ring. No. Okay. We will pay you a lot of money if you come. I don't care. Click. Ring, 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 ring. Not only will we pay you a lot of money, we will send you a first-class ticket. It'll be at the airlines. And they also have, it's like there'll be an envelope there waiting for you, and there'll be $5,000 in cash. Okay, you've got my interest. I said, so when are you going to send this, and when do you want me there? They said, we're going to send it tomorrow, and we want you to come as soon as you can. And that ticket, because it's first class, you just call them up a day ahead, and you can get on the airplane. So I go, okay. And I said, so, I have no way to get to the airport. Don't worry. We will send you, you just call up the airlines, tell them what time you want. You go down to the Pan Am building and go, there's a chauffeur service. You go in there, give them your name, and they'll drive you straight to the airplane. I said, okay, I think we have a deal. I said, so that's nice to start off with. I want a lot more money to finish it, to do this job. They said, don't worry, you will be really rewarded. I said, okay. Click. So, day goes by. I call up the number that they gave me at the airlines. I said, hi, this is Al Bob. You got the ticket to go to Rio? Oh, yes, sir. We were first class, you've got the best, and we got an envelope for you. I said, okay. I'm going to go tomorrow, but I'm going to come down and actually I'm going to come. Today is Monday. I'm going to go Wednesday, and I will come and get the envelope and sign for it and the ticket today, but I'm going to go Wednesday because I got stuff to do. Okay, not a problem. So, I go Monday, get the envelope, $5,000. I put 4 of it in the bank in my checking account. And then I, a day after that day, I go down at, supposed to show up there at 3 p.m. right there, and they have a car for me, and they drive me straight to Kennedy, and they take me to a special super duper VIP door. I don't go through the whole thing. The car goes right there. I get there. I do that. They take me to a lounge where they have appetizers, cocktails, and then my flight is called, and I get in a little go-kart, and I go to the gate, and I get to go on, before anybody else. I'm the special guy, and they put me in a thing that goes all the way back so you can sleep. It was a 747. It had a bar upstairs for the first class, and there were only in the whole first class there were only 30 seats, and they were all up. And I had the best one because I was in the very front, so I had a lot of room all around me. That's where this came. And so, I get there, have a very nice steak meal, lobster meal, eggs Benedict. It took about, 15 hours to get down there because it was straight from Kennedy to Rio. I don't really, 9 hours, whatever it took. And, had always, I'm not a big liquor drinker, but they had great liquor, and I partaked and had a really good time. And I get off. Right at the gate, the lawyer guy is waiting for me in somebody driving a go-kart, and they take me over to this place where they just stamp my thing. I don't even go through customs. Takes me out to a limousine. It's a Mercedes built like a tank, armored. The window glass is like that thick, bulletproof. You could hit it with an RPG and it would still keep going. And so, I'm fine there. And so the guy who is sitting in there, and I look at him, and he's got the chauffeur, the chauffeur hat, the white shirt, the black tie, the black jacket, and he gets out, and he's got these ragged shorts and no shoes, and he's barefoot. He comes around, he opens up the door and there's only one door, and it's like a living room in this limousine, right? And so the lawyer goes after you. I get in, and these seats are like unbelievable. And so he, closes the door. We take off. We go through Rio. We get on the highway, and we're going on the highway along the East Coast, along the Atlantic coast, and it's up and down and up and down and up and down. And this guy is doing 70, and he's flying by the trucks, and there's only like 2 lanes. And as we get we went at the top of these mountains, and he's doing 70, and he's like right next to a truck, and he's in the oncoming lane, and the truck is heading right towards us, and he just zips right, he hits the floor, and I'm a little bit, but the lawyer is like half asleep, and he kind of wakes. He goes, "Have you ever had a cup of Caprino?" And I go, no. And it's made with cachaça, which is like LSD, rocket fuel alcohol. And he, opens up, he pushes the button, and this bar comes out, and there's ice cubes and crushed ice. He takes a little cup, puts the crushed ice, and then pours the cup, the mixture over the ice, and it's amazingly tasty and good and yummy. And and I've never been drunk that fast, and not like stupid drunk or like want to throw up drunk, but happy psychotropic drunk, right? And I started saying, okay, so what's your name? Barry. I said, Barry? Your Brazilian name is Barry? I said, he goes, just call me B. I said, okay, I can work with that. So we're going up and down and up and down. And how does this driver have the nerve to drive this way? And he goes, he's blind. And I said, what? He goes, he can't see the oncoming traffic, so he doesn't worry about it. He just feels where they are, and he feels that truck coming up the other side. He knows where it is, and it's just what Einstein said about a black hole, that the energy of the black hole was so much that it would pull whatever light behind it around, so you could see the light around it, right? And that's this guy. This guy was he had the energy of a event horizon of a black hole, right? And so we're like flying down the road, and it's amazingly, it's a terrible road, and there's trucks everywhere, and yet the air inside is fresh, and it can smells like flowers. There's some flowers and flower pots on either side of the car. It's like a living room. And he goes, are you hungry? I said, yeah, a little bit. And he pulls out this like little steamer thing, and he pulls out these like little fafayas. They are fluffy, crisp kind of pastry. Mild, some are medium hot, some are really hot. And, I'm just eating these things up, and it's like, and he had in the freezer, he had some shrimp. And so anyway, he's discussing to me about my project. He describes what Buzios is this town that is totally for, the Eurotrash rich to come and have a good time. And that they have a hospital that does plastic surgery. That's what he said, plastic surgery, like wrinkles. And that's what he intimated. And he said, so, Madame, and that's the lady who is like a Jabba the Hutt, everything and everybody in this, 90-mile by 40-mile peninsula that juts out into the Atlantic Ocean. And there's mountains, so when we got to where the turnoff was, we were at the top of one of these hills, and we came in and we went down, and the ocean is like, as soon as we made that turn, the ocean's right there, but we're about 3,000 feet above the ocean. We're at the top of this mountain range, and we are like zipping down these, crossbacks, and it was pretty freaking amazing. And this guy is just zipping down. There's not any real truck traffic on this road, and the road is in way better condition than the state road, right? And we kind of get down, and we come into, on this side, kind of little where boats come in. It's not a marina, it's like more like a port, but not as big as a port, and somewhere between a marina and a port. And then we come around, and there's this big lake that is like the water for the rich people in that area, for the hospital and Madam and a few other folk. And it's still about 1,800 feet above sea level. And we come around, and then there's a big farming neck of the woods, a good, 20 miles by 10 miles of kind of not flat, but not mountainy, terraced farms. Lots of vegetables, lots of everything, coca, you name it. But not a problem. And so we're winding down, and we pop out this side, and we go through one fishing village, and then we come into what's the main road into Buzios, that then goes all along the beach, and then forks, and it goes to the bigger fishing village on this side, and then the road up to the hospital and up to where the really rich people live, and we go up there. And he goes, now we're going to see the madam, and she's going to have a nice little event. And he says, have you ever seen Star Wars? I said, yeah, because you ever see, Empire Strikes Back? Yes, yes. And you know how it opens, and, Leia goes dressed as a mercenary and to go save Han, and she's in there. And, they get in there, and this is like, big room, and Jabba the Hutt sitting up on a big chair, and all these people who are sycophants, and that's exactly what you're going to walk into. Madam is a lot like Jabba the Hutt, so never look her in the eye, never make any comment on how she looks other than, you look great today, or you're so beautiful. And I'm going, okay. And so we kind of pull in, and there's a big gate, and we drive in, and it's a, big, you drive in, and there's this big entrance, and you go in, it's this big hall, and all these big windows, and lots of light, and hallways going off in many different directions. At the very end, a gigantic doors open, and it's this big, like, where the king is, right? And I woke up, and there is this woman who looks, layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of fat. And she's covered by a silk sheet, gigantic, almost like a tent, right? And she's got, she's got this unbelievable deep, just like Jabba the Hutt, unbelievable. And next to her, she has these two guys, who look like they are eunuchs, meaning they have high voice, and so they basically are the translators. This guy is all the language up that they can read your frigging mind. And like, wow, this is just like the chauffeur who was blind could sense the energy of vehicles around him. It's now saying your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to connect. Okay, we're connected. So what are you saying here? Let's see. Hey, Fish, good to see you, buddy. Sandra, you liking the story? Anyway, so an AI watching. But anyway, so I'm going to go and see if I can get any more interested in this. And then, let's see, what time is it now? Oh, 3:40. So about 20 minutes, I'm going to say goodbye, whether I'm done with the story or not. And then tomorrow morning, around 10, 11 o'clock, I will come back, find another place, and either complete the story or keep going. But I'll keep going for now. Good story. Okay. So, there I am, and I show up, and I'm in the big king room with Jabba the Hutt, and which is known as Madame. And she and she had gone to New York, and she had gone to Xenon, the discotheque. And a lot of discos, and I rewired Studio 54 the second time around. I wired how I got into it was I was master electrician for the Fillmore East, right? And 10, 15 years after Woodstock, the building kind of closed after Billy Graham, who was the guy who put on the Woodstock. And Woodstock would have never been known, but Billy Graham, had a 16-track Studer recording and Neve board, and recorded everything like a recording studio, like he did in the Fillmore East and West. and he had a real professional film company make a film of it, and that was the movie. Because there was a Watkins Glen had a million people festival that was great, and I worked on that one, and it was great, better than Woodstock. And there was 3 or 4 other really. There was one in Harlem, the Black Harlem Music Festival, and that was in '69, and that was amazing. I worked on that one too, and no one has ever heard of either of those, right? But they were far better than Woodstock. But because he made a movie and made a record and packaged it, that's what Billy Graham did so well. Both Billy Grahams, the Christian Billy Graham and the rock and roll Jewish boy Billy Graham, did the Fillmore East, Fillmore West. Janis Joplin, live at the Fillmore. And what Billy would do was all these bands, Grateful Dead, Janis Joplin, and Holding Company, and the Doors, and all those guys were becoming big in San Francisco at bars, and they were making $400 or $500 a night, but they had 6, 7 guys in the band. And what Billy would do, he says, "I will give you the door," which would be about $5,000, right? And I am going to record this, and I will own the recording, period, the rights. You sign everything away that you do on that stage that night. And he made hundreds of millions of dollars of those recordings. But he did it for 20 years. He had everybody and his brother, and he made records. And he was one of the largest record producers without people knowing what he was doing. I mean, the people in the business do it. Anyway, so Madame goes to, and what happened to me was, I was building and fixing discotheques. That became one of my, and to keep the building department from, because if the Studio 54 is closed one night, they lose 20. And so the electrical inspector would go, that exit light's off, I'm going to have to close you down. So they give them like $1,000 cash, right? So instead of that, I went to the city, and they had these cards, just like if you ever go into an elevator and you look at the elevator, there's this little card, one that elevator was last inspected. They had these cards for theaters that had public, that the guy who's in charge of making sure it's safe, me, the master electrician, could sign in and put the date, right? So I would get a bunch of these cards, and basically I would go in there every night and put my name and sign the date. And, if they were to get it, it would have to go through me because I had signed this piece of paper. I had everything documented. I showed that every exit light worked, and every this and every that. And so they would pay me $100, $200 a night to go into their clubs and do that and hang out for an hour or two and have a good time and then go on to the next one. So one night I could make, $3-4 grand, and it was a lot cheaper to pay me $100 or $200 than to pay that inspector $1,000. And once the inspectors realized, and I had a name of Mr. Integrity, I was the only guy in master electrician at that time of the 80s and 90s that never ever got a summons for doing something wrong. And inspectors, Al did this, they wouldn't even look at the it's okay. And so I had a really high level pedigree. But if you're working in clubs, if you're working on restaurants, if you're working in any of that, you're dealing with the mob. So I had a godfather. His name was Mike Finelli. And instead of him doing prostitution, drugs, and whatever, he did rolls, these amazing, crispy little rolls on the outside, and like unbelievable, gooey lovingness in the inside, and hotel bar butter, the little pads of butter that are put up in aluminum or gold or whatever, and you take it apart. Well, it was just enough butter to crack that piece of bread and stick it in there while you're touching the aluminum, and you put them in there, and it was so cold that it wouldn't stick to the aluminum. It would go straight into that, and you push the bread back together, count to 4, and the rolls were so hot it would melt the butter, and you'd eat it, and it was like orgasm. So he's the only guy who did that. So all of the fancy hotels and restaurants had his rolls, right? Any restaurant that had tablecloths or napkins or silverware or plates got them from him. If you got them from anybody else, you like had them trucked in for him, somebody would come in and break up the restaurant. Right? And he didn't, bend you over the table. I mean, he gave you a great, amazing product, but he owned that. And the other thing he owned is if you had a bar, you had beer. He didn't own the beer. He didn't own anything. He owned the taps. And you could not have beer without the tap. And he owned all the taps. So anyway, when they were building Xenons, they were trying to do it without having to use the usual suspects, right? And, the mob and the unions and everybody gave him a hard time. And so every electrician, one electrician would start and get to a certain point and then be told, okay, you got to leave that job. So there were about 10 different electricians that did 90%, put all the pipe in, put the service in, did all the hard work, but nothing worked. It was nothing. They just still had, the lights, the temporary lights you have when you're doing construction sites. The only lighting, and a disco isn't blinking and lighting, right? So they went to Mike Finelli, who's Mr. Restaurant Disco, you name it, and said, okay, Godfather, we give up. And he goes, I have the boy for you. He calls me up and says, Al, what are you doing? Come on down to the office. So I did. And he introduced me to the guys who did Xenons. And he goes, this guy is a magician. Guys who said, okay, did not realize that they then got immediately new partners. Tony Two Toes and Bobby Bentnose, two real mobsters, right? And they were gay mobsters. The gay mobsters that you saw in Tony Soprano? All of Tony Soprano came from this crew. So anyway, so I knew these guys, and I knew the story. So they said to me, okay, you need to get this working by this date, like a month and a half from that date. The clock is counting. And if you sign on for this, which by me just showing up, I signed on for this, I will get paid an amazing amount of money, and I will be given whatever I need to do the job, and but I got to get it done by this time, right? And the motivation is that Tony Two Toes and Bobby Bentnose, they're going to get in trouble if the place doesn't open by a certain time, because all the money that went into this, which was millions and millions of dollars, came from people from Chicago and Las Vegas. And they were going to show up on this date, and they wanted to see the full of people and blinking, right? So the guys who started out, they were very good on getting the crowd in, but they were not very good at construction or this or that or management, any of the above, right? So the mob took that over, and they're good at that, So I went right away to work, and at the first day, Bobby Bentnose comes, hey, Al, come here. And I said, yes, Bob. But he goes, come on downstairs. And they have this green room, which is where all the super duper, there's a VIP lounge over here, but the green room is like, whoa, that's where Prince hangs out. That's where Bob Dylan hangs out. That's where the Beatles hang out. And so he goes, this is going to be your new apartment. And they had this like amazing king-size bed, and they had a kitchenette over here, and a nice, unbelievable rug, and a bunch of lounge chairs, and the air conditioning, the heat was great, the air was sweet, and it was there, right? And there was always, these two girls who were there to take care of all of my needs. I said, okay, very nice. And I said, why do I need this? I'm working. He goes, no, you are not leaving here until this works. You can't go home, because all the other electricians, they never come back. You are never leaving until you'll get, whatever food you want, everything you want, but you got to be here 24/7. Get this thing done, within, it was about 50 days I had, right? And so all the hard stuff, it was like all these boxes of wires. So I called up all my friends who I taught to be electricians, all these kids, all my godchildren. I brought in about 20. I said, you guys are going to get paid. This is in 79, maybe 80, 81, somewhere in there. Anyway, so I said, you're going to get $100, a Benjamin, every day. That's it. You know, you go to Tony. I give him the finger. You get 100. And if you're doing a good job, second week you're going to get 200. Still doing a good job. You know, we have about 8 going. So, you know, and if you're not pulling your own, I'm going to call in from my other godchildren in here, right? And so this was like a job, like what? And they were just getting, you know, it wasn't on anyone 1040 or anything. It was like a Benjamin. And so I had a very well trained, very motivated